This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, A305. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Committee Room, A305. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, A305. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Committee Room, A305. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, A305. Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Committee Room, A305.
Please take the roll. Stanley's a no.
You have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks very much. I want to say to everybody here, we have a lot of meetings going on. We've got a budget conference. We've got things we've got to get to, so we're not going to be long with this agenda. What I want to do first is take up the similar bills. The first one on the list is 1883, which is Delegate Carlson's bill. Is she here? It's my understanding that was similar to Van Valkensberg's bill, which is Senate Bill 1040. Are there differences? Two technical amendments, and will that conform the bill to Van Valkenburg's bill? Okay. Okay, all in favor of adopting those conforming amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the line amendments are as followed. On line 19 of the engrossed bill, strike all of lines 19 and 20. And then on line 503 engrossed, after that, strike the remainder of line 503 through 2032 on line 506. And insert a Phase 2 utility as defined in subdivision A1 of 56-58.585.1 of the Code of Virginia may recover costs associated with any petition for cost recovery pursuant to Clause 4 of subdivision A6 of 56-585.1 of the Code of Virginia that has been previously approved by or is pending with the State Corporation Commission as of December 31st, 2032, notwithstanding any time limitation on such cost recovery contained in such subdivision. Thank you.
Okay, is that it? Okay. Does everybody remember this bill, Van Valkenburg's bill about the renewable portfolio standard? Is there a motion on the bill? Move to report. Is there a second?
There are two motions for report.
Okay. Okay. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Ayes 8, noes 5.
Ayes 8, noes 5. Okay, that bill reports. The next one on the list is 2084 from Delegate Shin. It's my understanding that's close to Senate Bill 960, which was Senator Perry's bill, and the motion was going to be to conform that bill, I think. Is that correct? Okay. A motion and a second to conform the bills is all in favor of those that motion, those amendments? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the bill now is exactly like 960. Okay, everybody understands the bill. Okay, we've got a motion to report and a second. Unless there's another motion, please open the roll.
10 to 5, that's how we know.
Yeah.
Ayes 9, noes 6.
Okay, the next bill is Senate Bill 20, or House Bill 2413 from Delegate Munden King. It's my understanding that was like Senator Servell's Bill 1021. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Okay, are there differences between the two bills? It says it's a recommendation of the Commission on Electric Utility Regulation.
Mr. Chair.
This is the Integrated Resource Plan bill. That's right?
Yes, sir. It's the IRP bill. I believe Senator Serval, I spoke with him before the meeting. He had amendments in the Senate bill as it left the Senate that he would like in a substitute, as well as the changes that the House made to his bill in Labor and Commerce. So it would be a substitute to incorporate all those amendments.
And that would be to avoid conference?
As far as I know, sir.
Can you describe the amendments?
Give me 1 second. Mr. Chair, the amendments that were made in the Senate moved the IRP year from 2025 to 2026 for APCO. There's a line saying the Senate saying the year after a Phase 1 or Phase utility files, they don't have to file a different planning document. It also says the utility compensates the facilitator, and there are also a series of amendments that were negotiated between Senator Serval, Delegate Munden King, and the utilities.
Okay. There have been changes to these bills. I mean, are there people in the audience that want to speak in favor of the changes? Or that want to speak against? Mr. Murray, I'm sorry, I saw you getting up. The changes, he said the changes were negotiated between Serval and I guess Munden King and the interested parties.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Murray, on behalf of Dominion Energy, I would describe these changes all technical, and other than the APCO date change, the rest were technical changes requested by Dominion and our subject matter experts who have to actually do the IRP.
Okay, we've adopted the amendments already. Is that correct? We've adopted substitute. Okay. Is there a motion on the bill? Is there a second? Second. Okay, motion and a second. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Okay, that bill reports. Delegate Munden King has another bill, 2438. Is she here? Might want to wait till she gets here, okay? 2469 from Delegate Henson, which is, Delegate Henson, your bill was like Senator Carol Foy's. Are you going to conform it, or?
There is an amendment.
There's an amendment, okay. Does the amendment conform the bill?
It does not. I think she rejected it on the Senate floor. What this amendment will do is not include employees providing consumer-directed services under Title 19 or 21 of the Social Security Act. So we're trying to remove the FIS. So we're trying to carve out the FIS.
Okay, is this the bill she had on the floor the other day that had the amendment that, okay. So the amendment removes the FIS?
Correct.
Okay. Got a motion and a second that the bill be amended to remove the FIS. So all in favor of that amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We've seen this bill before. We saw it from Senator Carol Foy. It passed out of here 9-6, and it passed the Senate 2117. Motion and a second on the bill. Unless there's another motion, please open the roll. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Okay, Senator Ballard is here, or he's not here. He left early because I told him he could. We've got a substitute for this bill. You'll recall this is like Senator Peake's bill that we had some discussion on the floor, and we put an amendment on the bill to essentially require that there be no rate increases during the winter months and put an 18-month moratorium on domestic cutoffs. Where this bill, the substitute we have for this does that, places that bill on top of this, does two additional things. It says during the 18 months, there will be no accrual of interest or any late charges. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the second, or all in favor of the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Substitutes before the, sure, pass it out. Okay. Thank you.
Question for the chair then.
Question for the chair.
Yes.
Senator Peake, it's your bill.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the amendments to my bill, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
So the way you've amended my bill, the way it currently stands is, so we still have, APCO is barred from disconnecting anyone for 18 months.
For 18 months. Now there are four changes to your bill. Your bill was a securitization bill.
I remember that
Okay,
bill.
you remember that?
That's how I filed it, I believe.
Okay, there are
Mr.
four
Chair.
changes. Number
Yeah.
one, APCO cannot cut off domestic customers December, January, February. Number two, APCO has an 18-month period in which they can't cut.
First one, they can't raise rates during those.
December,
Yeah.
January, February. They can't cut people off for 18 months. They can't charge them interest during that 18 months for unpaid domestic bills, household, not businesses, but household bills, and they can't impose late fees.
Hard to make a living in this Commonwealth.
That's what it does. Do I have a motion on? Okay, a motion. Unless there's another motion, please open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Okay, thank you, Senator Peake. Delegate Ballard. Delegate Sickles, you have 2644, which was like a bill that I introduced, and my understanding is it's supposed to pass now the way it is.
Yes, sir. It's exactly like your bill.
It's exactly like my bill right now. What's the bill do?
Okay.
I mean, I got a lot of bills.
It is
Okay,
a bill sought by the co-ops
The
to allow
co-ops,
the hyperscale.
I got it.
Financial.
I
yeah.
got it now. Okay, got a motion to report, and it's been seconded. Unless there's another motion, please open the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zeros. Thank you, Delegate.
I have two more, but I guess I'll wait patiently.
Well, I'm sorry.
I've
Delegate
got one
Ward-
with Senator Bagby that's exactly the same, too.
Okay. With that's 2744.
Okay.
Senator Bagby's conforming. Striking a comma. Okay. Everybody that's for eliminating the comma, say aye. Okay, any comma lovers, say no. Okay, had a motion and a second to report the bill. Unless there's another motion, please open the roll. Okay, that was 2744.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's right.
The last bill is only a House bill, so.
It's
whenever
only,
you take
well,
that up.
if you could wait just.
Sure.
Okay, Delegate Ward, I saw come in. She's the chair of the committee, and so you've got 2769. Is that the only bill you've got? No, you've got two bills.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This bill, I want to shed a little light on an issue that's not only a matter of fairness, but it's also one of public health and human dignity. Life insurance discrimination against individuals who take medication called pre-exposure prophylaxis medication is proven to prevent HIV. But if an individual is seen to be taking this medication, many times life insurance policies discriminate against them. And these are just people who are trying to be proactive and making sure that they keep people safe, everyone safe, and that's the purpose of this bill. It will eliminate that outdated practice, stigmatizing people with HIV.
Okay, there wasn't a Senate cognate. This is 2769. Does anybody have questions of Delegate Ward? There wasn't a Senate cognate, so we need to take testimony.
Okay.
3 minutes for people that are for and 3 minutes for people that are against. Are there people that want to speak in favor of this legislation? Are there people that want to speak in opposition?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll. Okay, you've got 1919. Is that?
Yes.
And the word I get from my desk mate here is that
Ayes
that
11,
one's,
noes 4.
we'll have to go to finance if the
Okay.
motion is to report. On 1919. Oh, yes.
I know we recommend reporting, but the bill just prohibits discrimination for someone who's trying to prevent getting HIV by taking
Yes.
preventive drugs?
Yes, because if it's seen that they are taking this particular drug, sometimes insurance companies will think that perhaps they have HIV, but it's preventative, and so they will not cover them.
Thank you.
Okay, 1919 is a workplace violence bill.
Yes.
It passed House 51 to 48. We haven't seen a bill like this. It'll have to go to finance if the motion is to report.
Okay.
Please.
All right. What this requires is a policy for any employer who has 100 employees or more, that they have some type of mechanism in place to report any type of workplace violence without any fear of retribution. This comes from the situation that happened in Chesapeake. People had an idea that this person had some problems, but they never reported it. They might have seen this person do something, but they never reported it. This gives an opportunity for employees to be able to report suspicious behaviors or anything that might happen in the workplace, and so they will be prepared if anything should happen. And that's the purpose of this bill.
Okay. Are there questions for Delegate Ward? Okay, this is not a bill we've seen before, so 3 minutes for people that are for the bill. And 3 minutes for people that are against. Okay, we got somebody against, okay, please. 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Travis Smiley, Virginia Food Industry Association. I spoke against the bill on the House side and
The
wanted
Virginia
to
what kind of association?
Virginia
Apologies.
Food Industry Association. Our concern with the bill is that it's incredibly broad. There's two other states that have passed a bill that defines workplace violence, one being California and one being New York. This bill is broader than either of those. And, I think that part of what makes it so broad is that it includes things such as failure to obey workplace duties as a reportable offense, suicidal threats, just various things that I don't think are what the bill's intent are to do. And then when you couple that, how broad it is compared to some other states with the lack of ability to retaliate or provide retribution for someone who was able to take advantage of that section of the bill, not being able to fire them for making a false report or take any sort of punitive action against someone for filing a false report, makes the bill quite problematic from our perspective. It also doesn't really, I don't think, take into account already existing workplace violence policies. It would require, I think, quite a bit of an expansion in that regard. And the 5-year record-keeping requirement could be quite burdensome on the business community as well. So, no, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Are there others? Is there anybody online? Okay, if the motion is to report the bill, we'll have to go to finance. If the motion is not to report it, just make it. Delegate Ward, I apologize. Do you have anything you want to say to wrap up?
No, the question was about the definition of workplace violence, and it's just an act or threat of violence without regard to an intent that occurs at an employer's workplace while an employee performs work duties. That's just the definition of it. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, the bill's before the committee.
I would move to report and refer to finance. Is that
Okay.
what you said, refer to finance?
It'll have to go to finance, yes. Motion to report and re-refer. Is there a second? Second. Been a motion to report and re-refer. Unless there's another motion, please open the roll.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Okay, the bill reports to finance, and we'll be meeting, I guess, right after this, so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, I've been requested by Delegate, our Senator Reeves, I think, who's got a motion to reconsider the vote by which we passed, we reported 2744.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Is that, been a second, been a motion and a second to reconsider that vote? I'd ask you to open the roll. And I think the reason for reconsideration is simply to get some votes right. So
Ayes 15, no 0.
the bill's reconsidered. I'd entertain a motion to report. Been a motion made and seconded to report 2744. All in favor of that? Oh, well, open the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 4.
Now we can get back to our order. Senator Lopez, our Delegate Lopez, House Bill 2711. Are you here? Yeah. Okay. 2711, I understand it was close to Survell's 850, but I don't know whether we're conforming or
Conforming.
conform. Do we have Senator Singh's bill? Is it similar? Delegate Singh's bill is not the next one to be considered.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, yes, Senator Eben.
if we conform it, we can then do the technical amendments after. Is that correct, or do you want to do the technical amendments first? I'm confused.
Mr. Chair, I believe the technical amendments conform the bill to SB 850 as it has passed both the House and Senate.
Second.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second on the amendments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now bill's now before the committee. It's now identical with some technical amendments to Survell's 850, which passed this committee 12 to 1 with 2 abstentions. Do I have a motion? Motion and a second. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. Thank you. Okay, Delegate Singh, you have more bills, Senator Delegate Lopez?
I had another bill.
Excuse me?
I had another bill, but I can wait.
Okay.
Thank you.
Delegate Singh's next. Has 1255, right?
2755.
2755, I apologize.
Mr. Chairman, I have a line amendment.
Mr. Chair, Delegate Singh, the line amendments are as followed. On line 32, after shall, strike provide and expedited. On line 32, after review, strike of. And then again on line 32, after application, insert within 6 months after receipt. Thank you.
This bill is similar to Senator Srinivasan's, which did not make it out of this committee.
It is is substantially different,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
You better hope so.
Okay, please.
Do you want to move the line amendment first, or do we?
I think it's already been moved and voted, I think, hadn't it? I think we passed it. We've already agreed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chair, as our power needs continue to grow, our climate becomes increasingly unpredictable, our Commonwealth needs to expand its toolkit to ensure reliable transmission methods. This bill was developed through robust discussion with industry, local stakeholders, and establishes a pilot program to bury 500 kilovolt power lines. The process set forth in this program empowers communities while maintaining the SCC's authority. Nothing in the pilot program will compel a utility to bury a power line, and nothing in this pilot program would dictate how the SCC determines rates for the project. Thank you.
Doesn't the bill require that the SCC approve some undergrounding?
Yeah, so here's how it works. A utility would come forward with a plan, and then with a feasibility study, and if the feasibility study says it's actually feasible to do this, then it would move to a second step, which is that they would determine the cost of undergrounding. And if the SCC determines that that cost is not unreasonable, then they'll go to the community and see if the community wants it. And if the community wants it, the SCC can approve it, or they can still deny it. So if nothing's compelling a utility to do it, and nothing's compelling the SCC to approve it.
Okay. So your argument is this is different from Senator Srinivasan's bill?
Yes, because Senator Srinivasan's bill indicated how it should be paid for, which was for large power users, and ours is silent on that and asks the SCC to make that determination.
Okay, well, the only problem is, of course, we PBI'd, this is the good senator's bill. Senator Eben.
My understanding from my discussion with Delegate Singh was that the SCC does the estimate, and then it says if any, the locality can decide if it wants to contribute to the effort.
That's correct.
If the locality does not contribute to the effort, does the SCC take into account whether or not it's too costly to proceed, or?
Yes, they're instructed in the bill not to proceed if the costs are unreasonable, and they should take into account how much, if any, the locality wants to contribute.
Okay, so it's a little bit different, Mr. Chairman, in that it's not requiring the undergrounding and allows for a local contribution, so a little different.
I agree.
Senator Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Singh, how many potential pilot programs could there be in your bill?
There's up to 2 lines that could be done in our bill through the pilot program.
Mr. Chairman, would that be per locality or just one time, one place? Or
Yes,
one?
it could be deployed twice, one time per locality.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that specific where it says you can't have 2 in one locality, but the idea is just to have 2 total for the Commonwealth.
Two full. Okay, thank you.
And this has been done in California, and it's been done abroad to bury 500 kilovolt power lines, but it's not been done in Virginia.
This is potentially a multi-billion-dollar cost that could be passed on to. Well, and we're not going to hear testimony because we've already had a similar bill. We've got the bill before us. Are there other questions? Or are there other motions? Okay, unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Oh, boy. What we did with this bill.
Ayes 6, noes 8. Thanks so much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, next, Delegate Hope has a bill, but Delegate Sullivan also has bills, I think, and you all have to get, Delegate Sullivan has the next one on the list. You're here, 1778.
Yes, I think Chairman Hope's downstairs in the Courts Committee. This is 1778, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This came to me from the State Corporation Commission. It simply tries to streamline the process for appointing insurance agents and make it more efficient and a little less clunky. It amends certain sections of the code to remove outdated payment processes and permits the Bureau to be much more flexible and simplifies the appointment process.
But it's a State Corporation Commission bill.
Yes, sir.
It's a bill that we've not seen before. 1778 are the questions of the delegate. 3 minutes for people that are for the bill, 3 minutes for people that are against. A motion and a second to report the bill. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll. Okay, can you do Hope's bill too?
It's a really good bill, I'm sure.
Okay.
Ayes 10, noes 3.
I've never seen him bring a bad bill.
Okay.
I'll let him know that.
1639.
I'll let him know he was called
Okay.
and send him up here.
The next one is, on the
Thank you, Mr.
list
Chair.
is Delegate Shin. She here. Okay. This is 2083. Munn King's here. Why don't we do Munn King? Because, okay, you sit behind the podium, I never see you. Sit behind the podium. I apologize. You had a bill in the first block, a similar bill, 2438. It was similar to Van Valkenburg's 1114. We incorporated into other legislation that did not pass on the floor. So turn your attention to Delegate Munn King. 2438. I don't think this committee's actually considered the substance of it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. So House Bill 2438 is a solar siting bill, and what it does is we are attempting to create a standard set of siting criteria so that localities understand what a good quality siting agreement can look like, so that when businesses decide to invest in our Commonwealth and our large-scale solar projects, that what you're requiring in Prince William is not much different than what you're requiring in Portsmouth or in other places, because right now they're all over the place, and that's leading to a delay in the development of these projects. I believe it was the Smithfield Times wrote that over it takes about 18 months to get an agreement with the locality for these large-scale siting projects. And so what I'm hoping to do is to create a standard to make it easier for companies to pull these agreements together while respecting local authority. You'll see several times throughout this bill that nothing here takes away a locality's ability to say yes or no to these projects, but the hope is to streamline the process and make it quicker. And happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there questions for Delegate Munn King on House Bill?
Yes. And I also, if I could ask staff, I do have an amendment.
Okay, do you have an amendment? Can you report that?
Mr. Chair, Delegate Munn King has requested a series of amendments on line 74. Strike the word permitted, insert considered, so that it would read, shall be considered pursuant to section 15.2, 2288.8, unless otherwise permitted by right. That same change would be made on line 88, striking permitted and inserting considered. And then on line 133, it's a series of amendments to essentially say nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit a locality from permitting a solar photovoltaic project or energy storage project by right.
Okay, do I have a motion on those amendments? Motion and a second on those amendments. So everybody in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the bill's amended. Are there questions for Delegate Munn King?
And happy, if I could just get a second to speak to those amendments.
Okay.
So as staff so wonderfully put it, these are just reassurances, small changes to reassure that every decision is up to the locality. But the way that we get there is that we have a standard set of things that we're asking that consider the environment, historical things. It goes through a list of items to consider what is right for the community. And it also includes that if localities have the right to choose where and how much solar is appropriate for their community.
Well, we haven't really heard this bill, so let's take a few minutes of testimony. 3 minutes for people that are for the bill. Do I have one? I do. I've got a few. 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bob Shippey with Sierra Club. We really thank the delegate for bringing this bill. This is an important issue, and we hope we can make progress on that in this session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next.
Hi there, Evan Vaughn, Executive Director of the Mid-Atlantic Renewable Energy Coalition. I also want to thank the sponsor for this bill. It creates standards for solar projects. Our member companies developing large-scale projects, investing billions of dollars in the state. We think that it's reasonable at a time of growing electricity demand to consider all projects in the state. Doesn't mean they have to be approved. The bill doesn't require that projects be approved. Localities can deny, modify, et cetera. Protects landowner rights, and it'll help us address electricity demand as a Commonwealth. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris McDonald with Williams Mullen on behalf of the American Clean Power Association. I want to thank the patron for all the time and effort put into this, because it has been a lot of time and effort. We associate our remarks with American. Hope you support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Trieste Lockwood representing the Chesapeake Solar and Storage Association, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Brittany West, AES Clean Energy. I just want to remind everyone, this is not preemption. In the end, the Board of Supervisors can approve or deny the project. They will allow for a variance if both the developer and the Board of Supervisors agree. I do want to mention we have worked diligently with the environmental community over the past few months. We've had include language in there related to view shed analysis, vegetative coverage, agrivoltaics. We have worked with them in the best ways that we could. But to remind everyone, we are the ones investing billions of dollars in the Commonwealth to actually build the infrastructure to combat climate change. We do need some predictability. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Lamar on behalf of Apex Clean Energy, headquartered in Charlottesville. Appreciate the patron bringing the bill, and we strongly support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Don Slayman of the IBW Local 26. We are working with the industry, and this bill promotes prevailing wage and apprenticeship programs for folks to get through this industry into the larger electrical field and have access to much better jobs. Thank you.
Are there people online? One person online? Opposition? Okay, well, let's hear from the people in the room who are opposed first. Are there people that are opposed?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Joe Lurch for the Virginia Association of Counties. We do recognize that the bill does not impact the final decision to say yes or no to a solar project. Our objection is that it does prescribe what must be in an ordinance for consideration for special exception or special use permit. And those prescriptions, we feel, they need to be decided by the locality. Every locality is different. Every geographical province is different. And every project is different in terms of scale and size. So for those reasons, we oppose the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Evans got a question for you, Joe. You want to come back up here? And
I thought I was getting away easy. Sorry.
So just to be clear,
Sure.
does the bill not allow each locality to decide what standards to set in their own ordinance?
The way that I read the bill, and defer to the patron because she did make some amendments, but I think I understand the line of amendments. What our understanding of the bill is, it says if you don't allow it by right, you have to require special exception, and it has to be under these roughly 12 standards that you have to approve them by. So that's our objections, if that makes sense.
Just a thought, Mr.
Sure.
Chair. So does it not allow
Senator Edmund.
Does it not allow the locality to set those 12 standards based on the locality's decision?
The way we read it, so for instance, Mr. Chairman, Senator Eben, if you take a look at number 1, it talks about the range of setbacks. Right. And so that could not be, it has to be within those range of setbacks, and it would not allow a locality through this process to do a different range of setbacks, if that makes sense.
Thank
So
you.
that's an example. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Mr. Chairman, Kyle Shreve, on behalf of the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation, the Virginia Forestry Association, will associate our remarks with that of Mr. Lurch, and also say that standards and criteria for the industry are a good thing. Our industry has to abide by them as well, but they're usually not as strict set out in the code and specific. It becomes very difficult if you want to change them later. I would also note some things like the setback distances don't always line up with our water quality setbacks for other industries, and so we want to make sure they're consistent. We have shared some amendments with the patron over the time in an attempt to work with that, but we do oppose the bill in its current form.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Mr. Chairman, Jay Ford with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. I appreciate when Kyle makes the pitch for water quality, but there are a couple of things in this legislation that while we appreciate the need to accelerate solar, there are limits in this ordinance in terms of natural resource protections. Localities need to have that flexibility. Another thing I would point out is over the last 6 months, there have been no less than 3 different stakeholder groups, and all 3 of them said the same thing, which is do not tell localities what to do. One of the main takeaways from all of them was if we're going to get to a point where the Clean Economy Act is something the whole state is happy about and can live with, we have to pursue legislation that brings everybody along. And this is legislation that will largely pertain to rural Virginia once again. And so we're worried that that serves to exacerbate some of the animosity around the transition to clean energy. So thanks.
Chair, members of the committee, my name is Dan Holmes. I'm here on behalf of the Piedmont Environmental Council and associate our comments with Mr. Ford. Respect what the patron is trying to do and understand this is a very complex issue, but we just feel like this bill is not ready for prime time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, Pat Calvert on behalf of Virginia Conservation Network. For the reasons Mr. Ford stated, Chesapeake Bay Foundation, we also oppose the bill.
Thank you very much. Next.
Mr. Chairman, Brad Copenhaver on behalf of Virginia Agribusiness Council, associate our comments with Mr. Shreve from the Farm Bureau and Forestry Association. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Blair St. Ledger Olson with the Virginia League of Conservation Voters. We do thank the patron for working so diligently on this. I know it's been a long process, but at this juncture, the standards set out in this bill do not match our best environmental principles, particularly as it pertains to the Chesapeake Bay goals. So for those reasons, we oppose.
Okay, thank you. Eldon, come on up and just tell us
Mr. Chairman,
who you represent.
Virginia Chapter of the American Planning Association. Our legislative committee met last Friday, and unfortunately, they're very concerned with the prescriptive nature of this and its impact on the use agreement statute, which has been so effective in getting projects approved.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've heard from people that are for and against. Delegate Munden King, do you want to? I'm sorry, we've got one person online. You've got 30 seconds. Okay.
Fred Hunsinger, unmute yourself now.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Brent Hunsinger, Friends of the Rappahannock. For the reasons mentioned by those who spoke before me, we do oppose this bill at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for being brief.
Thank you.
Delegate Munden King.
Mr. Chair, and happy to answer questions for the committee, but just want to address a couple of things. First of all, the lights are going out, period. The lights are going to go out. And we are going to have a choice. We are going to accelerate clean energy projects, or we're going to go back to the dirty energy politics that are making our communities sick, especially communities like mine. So anyone who is serious about accelerating our use of clean energy, I would think would want to get something out of this session like this bill. Secondly, I recognize and I really appreciate a lot of the partners who have come in support and those opposed as well, because we have worked throughout a number of months on this. And I recognize that some people want an apple and this is an orange. And I get that. But it's an orange that has vitamin C. It has a lot of great things in it, and it can do some real good for our communities. And I hope that those folks can come back and get the apple that they want. But But that's not the bill that's before you. I think the bill that is before you, I did just like a quick search. We're talking about water. We're talking about viewshed. We're giving the localities the right to say, you know what, this is not enough. You're doing the bare minimum, and we want more. And localities can say it's not good enough. I don't think anyone is rushing to put solar on the side of a mountain. So the concerns about setbacks, I think they're good there. I just think that it is very important that we recognize the urgency of our clean energy needs.
Okay, Senator Peake's got some important things to say.
Yes.
Thank you. You're correct again, Mr. Chair. I do agree with the delegate on one thing. I've been telling you all that all session in the last year or two. The lights are going to go out. Until you make some real changes, the lights are going to go out.
So,
Wow.
so I think he's on your side. I think he's on your side, Delegate Money King. I thought he was getting ready to make a motion. Okay, the bill's before the committee. Is there a motion? Okay, got a motion to report and a second. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Ayes 7, no 7, 1 abstention.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Delegate Hope has one bill, and then Delegate Shin has three. So, and we're going to go back. Hope is chairing a meeting down the hall, downstairs.
Delegate Maldonado.
So is Delegate Maldonado. Well, I don't feel right, because I've told Delegate Shin twice now.
I'm okay, sir.
Okay, you're okay. Well, I take Maldonado next, and then I'll take you, and then I'll take you. Okay.
House Bill 1639.
1639, turn your attention to Delegate Hope.
1639 would remove the tobacco surcharge that we put in a couple of years ago. This, under the Affordable Care Act, under Obamacare, it allowed you to charge tobacco users a 50% surcharge to get health insurance. What we've seen with that is that the healthier people that are smoking are not buying insurance, but it's the unhealthy people are buying an insurance into the program, and it's really driving up premiums for everyone. This was the recommendation of the unanimous recommendation of the Joint Commission on Healthcare. They worked with the Urban Institute, and they found where this is repealed in other states, what has happened is more smokers will buy into the market, and it lowers the cost for everyone because it spreads the pool around. You've got healthy people in the pool, which lowers the cost for everyone. During the sunset that the governor put in a couple of years ago, the Bureau of Insurance conducted a couple of studies. What they found was tobacco users are now getting into the market, which is good, and it's also having a impact on the premiums, of lowering the premiums. They found that it raised premiums by 1%. Meanwhile, the national average goes up between 6 and 7%. So this is having a positive impact on smokers getting into the market and having a lower increase for premiums.
So the State Corporation Commission reports, I mean, this is consistent with what they've reported?
It is consistent with what they purported and what the Joint Commission on Healthcare found in other states.
So this takes a change we made temporarily in 2023 with the 2026 sunset, makes it permanent, takes off the sunset. You understand? Okay. 3 minutes for people that are for. One person on. Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Kelly Fitzgerald, representing the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. We supported the original bill that Delegate Hope put in. We support this bill as well. As he mentioned, human nature is what it is, and initially it was thought that if there was an increase in the premium and you were a smoker, because of that, you would say, "Wow, I'm gonna quit smoking." But what ended up happening is that people did actually just stop getting insurance because they didn't want to pay that higher fee. So what that does is that if you don't have access to health insurance, you don't have access to smoking cessation products, which is what you need to stop smoking. So it's a good bill. It helps people get better access to insurance, and we very much support it.
Okay, thank you very much. Next.
Senator Deeds, members of the committee, I'm Gonzalo Ida with the American Heart Association, and for the reasons so well put before me and by the patron, we strongly support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there others? We've got one person online, okay?
Alex Casper, unmute yourself now.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Alex Casper. I'm the Director of Advocacy for the American Lung Association. For all the reasons you've heard by my colleagues, I'll keep it really short. We are happy to support Delegate Hope's bill, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Okay. People that have another view? People that are against? Okay, the bills, do you have anything you want to say, wrap up?
I appreciate your
Okay, are the
support,
bills
Mr.
before the committee? Delegate Peak, Senator Peak, I apologize. You keep having these things, important things to say, and I forget to look down that way. I apologize.
We are having a little discussion down here, and we do just want to make sure because of the language. So, if this bill passes, people who smoke will be getting the same rates as people who don't smoke. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, we're repealing the sunset, so they already are doing that. But if we don't repeal this bill, it will go up
That was the
50%.
confusion. Okay.
In
Got it.
2023, we passed the law. We're taking
We're
the sunset
extending
off
it.
with this bill.
Gotcha.
Move to report.
Okay, got a motion to report. Is there a second? Got a motion and Senator Peak, I think you made the second.
I wasn't sure if you were talking about
Oh, Evan and Peak and Evil Empire, huh? Okay, got a report, motion to report in a second. Please, unless there are not other motions, please open the roll. Okay.
Ayes 14,
Your
noes
bills-
1.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
Delegate Maldonado, you've got one bill, and our understanding is that it's 2098, that if that bill is reported, it has to go to Senate Finance. So that would be the motion, would have to be to go to Finance.
Yes, thank you.
2098, turn your attention to the delegate.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. 2098 tries to cover a loophole. Currently, with teachers in particular, they are given a planning period, a lunch period, and if they are asked to work and teach classes during those periods, they get additional compensation. As part of that compensation, folks look to the code. Recently, however, there was a school system who believed that the code was ambiguous. And so a particular school system did not reimburse those teachers for earned wages. So HB 2098, now, not all school systems do this. A lot properly pay their teachers. We're trying to go for consistency in this moment. So currently, the court holds that all employees does not necessarily mean school boards unless the statute expressly states it applies to public employers. And public employers are forced to sue to recoup wrongful wages. They should have the same remedies as other employees. So this, we believe, is a technical correction to implement wage protection passed in the General Assembly and signed by the governor years ago. School employees are integral to success of Virginia's education system. As we know, we're having a hard time not only attracting, but retaining them in our classrooms. And they deserve the same rights and protections as other professionals. And the bill protects teachers from wage theft, which means payment for earned wages, and the ability to recover damages when their pay is wrongfully withheld. It also ensures justice, promotes stability, and strengthens our schools by retaining talented, dedicated educators and staff. So I will pause there, Mr. Chair.
I apologize, Delegate Maldonado, only one locality did this, the rest are
No.
taken care of?
We have a recent example of why we need to do this, because there was a recent court case. But we are hearing it happening across the Commonwealth. Certainly, because there is inconsistency in application, we want to really clarify this to make sure that our teachers are recovering their earned wages.
Okay. Are there questions for Delegate Maldonado? Okay, this is a bill we haven't heard before, so we need to take some testimony. 3 minutes for people that are for the bill. Okay, we've got one coming. Yes, sir. Come on.
Hi, I'm Lawrence Drummetta. I'm with the Virginia Education Association, and I would echo Delegate Maldonado's statements. We believe that earned wages are certainly important, and that employees should have a remedy to try to recover those wages that they've earned. And we have seen across the state, bus drivers, instructional assistants, teachers, all have had supervisors attempt to withhold those wages from them. So they should have a remedy to try to get after when they are washing a bus after hours or covering a duty, et cetera.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others? And is there anybody online? Okay, anybody opposed to this bill? Okay, anybody online that's opposed to it? Okay, there were 48 people in the House of Delegates who were opposed to it. Delegate, I mean, where are these people? Okay, do you have anything you want to wrap up?
What I would say, Mr. Chair, is that I think we're at a crisis moment in our education system. And with what's happening at the federal level, we will see very quickly a crisis happening in employment and workforce with our government employees. So I think it's really critical for us to put proper safeguards and clarifications in place to make sure we are protecting our workforce and the people who really dedicate their service to our Commonwealth.
Okay, motion to report and re-refer to finance. Is there second? It's been seconded. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll. Okay, thank you, Delegate.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of
Thank
the
you.
committee.
Delegate Shin, you've got 3 bills. $2083, $2087, $2090, just a numerical order if you want to. If you don't, if you've got, there's another order you prefer, that's all right.
2083 will go there first
Okay.
because that should hopefully maybe be the easiest.
2083, turn your attention to Delegate Shin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members. And it's great to be before you all again with this. 2083 is a pretty straightforward bill because currently Virginians can only purchase health insurance through the Virginia Health Benefits Exchange during open enrollment period or if they have a qualifying life event. A qualifying life event might be something like being fired from your job, getting a divorce, getting married, or even giving birth. But pregnancy is not considered a qualifying life event. And with House Bill 2083, which is a Section 1 bill that directs the Health Benefits Exchange to create a special enrollment period for pregnancy, which they already have the authority to do. For example, they recently created a special enrollment period for victims of Hurricane Helene. We think they already have that authority to do that, to establish a special enrollment period for pregnancy, and that is what we're seeking to do, Mr. Chair and members.
Okay, that's all the bill does?
Yes, sir.
Well, we haven't heard this bill, so let's take a little testimony. That we have a motion to 3 minutes for people that are for this bill, 3 minutes for people that are against. Okay, we've got a motion to report and a second. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Okay, your bill's reported. Then you have 2087.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, 2087. I believe there was a substitute that was prepared before this committee meeting.
Is there, okay, motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, any opposed? The substitute's before you, and now it's with a lot of new words, so tell us what's changed.
A lot
Tell
of
us
new
about
words.
the bill and then what's changed in the substitute.
That sounds like a plan, Mr. Chair. So the bill, HB 2087, is really about creating a more open, diverse marketplace for Virginia businesses and drivers refilling their tanks with electricity, a fuel that costs Virginia drivers half as much to fill their tanks as filling up with traditional fuels. Currently, Virginia law allows utilities to install EV charging stations without clear limits, and that discourages private investment. Companies like gas stations and truck stop operators are hesitant to install fast chargers due to concerns about competing with our utilities and regulated monopolies. This bill aims to eliminate and mitigate some of that risk for private companies by narrowing down and clarifying what Appalachian Power and Dominion Energy can propose to the SCC for approval and guidance for what the SCC can consider and what they can approve. So to boil it down, it comes down to a few things here. Subsection C of the bill provides greater certainty to private refueling stations that they can have that. Subsections D and E narrows down what utilities can bring before the commission for its review and approval, which includes technical assistance to truck stops, gas stations, convenience stores,
et cetera. And finally, the third enactment directs an SCC proceeding to prevent utilities from undercutting private businesses like Buc-ee's, Love's, Truck Stops, Sheetz, and independent operators so that those private businesses can enter the market without the risk of unfair competition, which is something that we heard.
And the criticism I've heard is that this bill kind of favors the bigger truck stop, the Sheetz and the I guess the Loves and all the Buc-ee's, whatever, over the small guy.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that the piece of that concern that I also have heard about, and for those folks, I've asked them to come and talk to me about potentially making amendments for weeks now, and we haven't gotten amendments from them that they've offered or have wanted to try and help us fix this with. And so I would point you to line, because of the substitute, I'm not sure exactly what line it's on, but it was formerly on line 95, where it says, line 99, where we talk about July 1st, 2027 as sort of the snapshot in time for which there would be essentially like radial distances established by the SCC for where APCO or Dominion might be able to establish a fast charging station in consideration of other private businesses that have also
You're
done
talking
that.
about 56-581.3, beginning January 1, 2028, a Phase 1 or Phase 2 utility may petition for approval of expenditures to develop, own, maintain, or operate public-facing fast charging stations only at or beyond a radial distance as determined by the commission relative to the location of any privately owned fast charging station that is already in commercial operation or has a pending building permit or interconnection request as of July 1, 2027.
Mr. Chair, yes, that would be the part that says when the Phase 1 or Phase 2 utility can come before the commission. But as that date says, that there's actually a July 1st, 2027 date, and that's the one that folks are saying considers, is a carve-out or that might be the language that I've heard them use. And I think if you read the language just as you have, there is no preference and it is language agnostic on who is winning or who is losing, but it actually provides protections for private enterprises and companies to make investments in the Commonwealth. And it's agnostic to what kind of business that is.
Okay, do people have questions for Delegate Shin? Delegate Senator Evan.
So that would be whether it's a small operator or whether it's a big chain, if they put it in before the date, that would protect them from having utilities open up competing charging station across the street or whatever the distance they decide?
That would be correct, Mr. Chair. And I would also say that we've also put in provisions into this, and you should have it in your sub, where we talk about specifically asking the utilities to provide information to small businesses for partnership opportunities so that they can have the same kinds of opportunities to be able to establish these fast charging stations.
Okay, are there other questions for Delegate Shin?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Morrison.
Yeah, Delegate Shin, would a Phase 1 or Phase 2 utility, would they be recovering costs here in the normal manner through the SCC, being that coming from ratepayers, or would it would come
Mr. Chair.
from ratepayers?
They would, Mr. Chair, but it would have to go before the SEC, and the SEC would have to approve that as a prudent investment.
Mr. Chairman, follow-up.
Senator Morrison.
So, Delegate Shin, if for instance, this was just a really great location and it's just constantly used and what have you, and they earned in excess of what we normally provide for Phase 1 and Phase 2 utilities to earn from returns from ratepayers, would they be able to exceed that? Usually, Mr. Chairman, am I correct, it's about 10%, something like that?
9.75-ish,
don't know.
are we? But I would imagine, Mr. Chair, that would the same returns for ratepayers would have to apply if they were in excess of said amount, I think would be the
Mr.
answer
Chairman,
there.
final question. So,
Senator
but
Morrison.
this is a different kind of situation for a utility to be able to get directly from in a retail fashion, a consumer of their electricity, correct? So it would be a matter not just of how much that person used, just like a homeowner or whatever.
I think, Mr. Chair, I would say I believe that to be true, but part of that is already in the ways that, as a Commonwealth, we've decided that electrification and investing in infrastructure for EV charging and that infrastructure in the Commonwealth is part of a priority for us as a Commonwealth, as a policy decision. And so I think that is already the case. And so we would just be allowing for that to continue.
Okay, Senator McBike has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for the patron. Does the language consider a phase one or phase two actually like leasing property at a service station and providing that installation and actually complementing versus competing?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can I ask for a repeat of that
Sure,
question?
sure. Mr. Chairman, I would ask the delegate, does the language seek to find where there are partnerships that could be had versus competition within the language? It talks about radius and competition between the existing, but is there language that can also focus on can the utilities augment or supplement or provide capital infrastructure of a charging to an existing business and help and supplement that business?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I think one of the things that this bill does is that we also direct the SCC to do a look back to see how effective this has been in promoting the adequacy of publicly available electric vehicle charging infrastructure and to promote small business investment and competition in transportation electrification, including by petroleum distributors and convenience stores. So I would say that the idea is that for the SCC to be able to look back and say that they have, if there are opportunities for more partnership, but I think that's what we're hoping that the SCC will be able to do in 2029 when they look back at this.
Okay, Mr. Chair, one follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's nothing in this language that would prevent a utility from approaching a petroleum distributor, gas station, and saying, hey, you have a site, we would like to put in this EV charging station and lease the ground lease for you and help to augment or whatever private deal they arrange. There's nothing in this language that prevent that from happening. Is that correct?
After 2027, that would be correct, Mr. Chair, but up until that point, we're saying that we're preventing that from happening because what we want is for private companies to be able to establish that and not have to compete with the utilities if they do decide to build.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Peake. You're good? Senator Obenshain, did you have questions?
Nope.
Okay. State Corporation Commission, I wonder if somebody there can tell me what happens in this bill that a utility couldn't already do.
Mr. Chair, Fred Oxenher from the State Corporation Commission. The utilities already have a lot of authority in this area. There's a specific provision of code that's been in the code for almost 15 years now that says that providing electric vehicle charging service is a permitted electric utility activity. And Dominion has a series of voluntary tariffs that permit company-owned charging stations.
So this doesn't provide them a whole lot of new authority?
It puts some structure around the authority. I mean, it doesn't provide new authority in the sense that we've had a provision in the code for a long time that says that that's a permitted utility activity.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we haven't heard this bill before, so 3 minutes for people that are for the bill, and then we'll do testimony against. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. B. Gonzalez with Capital Results representing Sheetz. I'm going to go really quickly. Sheetz has 4,100 employees with 115 stores, and we're really excited about this bill. We have been working with the stakeholders for months. Utilities already have the authority to have their own private charging stations. They have some outside of Dulles area, right across the street from a Sheetz, so we want to make sure to continue to build our investment in the Commonwealth by building the fast charging infrastructure throughout the Commonwealth. I think that you'll hear from opposition that that this is, some sort of carve out. The definitions in the bill do not protect truck stop operators only, little guys from big guys. It opens it up to anyone to invest. There's language in there for partnerships for the utilities to work with convenience store operators and petroleum jobbers. Sheetz is a member of the Virginia Petroleum Marketers Association, and so we support this bill wholeheartedly. I think that you've heard that a lot of opposition about distances and so forth, and I think that this gives the SCC the authority to really manage and see where the competition is. If we've moving forward with electrification, this is a really great step forward in that direction, and we look forward to building additional stores and infrastructure. Thank you.
I ask one question.
Yes.
Does this allow a phase one or phase two utility to provide power outside of an area where they already have a regulated
Yes,
monopoly?
they already have that authority right now, and they can partner with whoever they want to partner with.
Are
right
they
now.
doing it, though?
They haven't done it yet. They've built their own facility in outside of Dulles, but that doesn't stop them from working with anybody else. In fact, that language is already in the bill.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Robert Barata. I'm here on behalf of Americans for Affordable Clean Energy. It's a coalition of some of the nation's most forward-thinking fuel retailers that are interested in the diversification of transportation fuels to include the electrification aspects. Our members have an interest in investing or making considerable investments in the electric vehicle fast chargers at their stores, at their truck stops and travel centers here in Virginia. But these fast chargers are significantly expensive, and we're talking multiple six figures into these chargers. So in order to make this current statute in Virginia really is a detriment to that making a rational decision on those investments. We don't want to make six-figure investments in there and then have a monopoly right across the street being able to use ratepayer dollars to undercut the private investment. We've worked hard over the summer with Dominion to reach a compromise language that Dominion found acceptable and we found workable, and we want to thank them for their honest collaboration in it. We urge you to pass this legislation so the private sector can get to work on installing these fast chargers throughout the Commonwealth. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We've got less than 20 seconds left for everybody.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be brief. Jesse Lynch on behalf of Series, a nonprofit working with businesses on sustainability and energy issues, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ken Hutchison on behalf of Walmart. Appreciate the patron working with Walmart and other stakeholders on the substitute language.
You're for it.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, Chris Nolan with McGuire Woods on behalf of Volvo Trucks and support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. People that are against the bill. One person online that's in favor. I'm sorry, Mike. Hold on one second. Against. Okay, well, come on. We're doing it. Take people in the room first.
Mr. Chairman, Mike O'Connor on behalf of Virginia Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Stores. Just like to read you a quick quote. Private retailers cannot compete with a regulated utility that can open next door and pass all of its costs onto residential and commercial power customers. That quote isn't from me. That's from the National Association of Truck Stops that's bankrolling this effort on behalf of the truck stops and capital results. They are so opposed to ratepayer subsidization, they're supporting a provision of this legislation that exempts themselves from utility subsidization while foisting it on the rest of us. This is a classic example of a deep-pocketed special interest promoting legislation to enrich themselves at the expense of the small business competition.
So if the small business person would basically have to pass the cost on to his customer?
No, I'm not saying, I'll go to the substitute in a second, but basically what I wanted to say is here we are, the last day of bills being considered, and you're being asked to put into law something that exists in no other state. No other state has this provision. When we talked to Delegate Shin on Friday, the question was asked, what would it take to erase our opposition? And our position was the set aside, the carve out for truck stops, if that was removed, our opposition would largely wane. That in the substitute is located on line 101, already in commercial operation or have a pending building permit or in-connection request as of July 1, 2027. That leaves out everyone else that has not put in one of those connections by 2027. The other reason that's important, and the truck stops want that so much, is with the new administration, they've shut off all the NEVI funding. So those chargers that are in the pipeline now are going to be even more valuable should this one provision, which is the one provision that we oppose, and I think including it does not, excluding it would not hurt the purpose of the bill.
I think Senator Eben has a question.
Yeah, really quick questions, if I might. My understanding is that the current statute already says electric utilities can own and provide EV charging at retail, and this legislation puts restrictions on that. Is that not right?
No, not for you, and I have to go back to line 101, already in commercial operation or have a building permit by 2027. That means that everyone else, which is 95% of the gallons sold in Virginia, not covered by this, could have ratepayers subsidize installation of fast chargers, not in the locations that are not covered in lines 101 and 102.
Mr. Chairman, just to
Senator Abbott.
follow up, I think I'm confused. I thought it says that right now, can electric utilities not provide EV charging at retail?
I missed the question.
Does our current statute not allow for utilities to provide EV charging at retail?
I believe that was asked earlier, and I believe that there are few, if any, instances where they're doing that.
So
but
they
that's
can
not-
do it according to the statute. You would concede that or no?
I'm not an expert in that, but I would concede that if that's
Okay.
necessary.
And then my second question was, when the bill passed to allow the utilities to own charging stations, did you oppose that legislation?
We were not involved in that.
Okay, and my final question was, this would place restrictions on an electric utility to compete against members that do install electric chargers, no? So how does it hurt your members?
It would set up a special cutoff or for those people that install them by 2027. After that, you're subject to ratepayer subsidization. The only people cut out of this are the truck stops and
Thank
are
you.
the ones that have
Okay.
have fast chargers by 2027.
Thank you. Who's next? Come on.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Rachel Macy, representing the Virginia Asian American store owners. We're really grateful to the patron for the continued conversation. She was very open with changes that we were trying to make and accommodate some of our very specific concerns. However, we still have the general concern that this does give a competitive advantage to the bigger truck stops like Wawa, Sheetz, Love's, whatever. And it just will hurt our members. So therefore, sadly, we are still opposed to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Stacy Gore with the Virginia Manufacturers Association. I know we echo the previous concerns of the past two speakers, but I just want to point out that the question that you should be asking is whether or not current code, while it allows them to service retailers, this bill allows them to be a retailer, which is why we're very concerned with this bill and we ask you to oppose it.
Okay, thank you very much, and I think there's somebody online.
Gordon Sutton, you may now speak.
Yes, sir. I'm Gordon Sutton I'm president of Tiger Fuel Company in Charlottesville, Virginia. We employ 403 people in Central Virginia, and we are opposed to this bill for the reasons already stated.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Tom tells me we need a technical amendment to the substitute. Well, tell us what it does, maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The technical amendment is on line 120 of the printed substitute. After pursuant to the strike second, insert third, so it says pursuant to the third enactment of this act. Thank you.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second to adopt that amendment. All in favor of that amendment, say aye. Aye. Okay, the bill's before the committee, unless you want to wrap it up. Is there?
Mr. Chair, thank you so much. I would just wanted to offer a little bit more context. There are already states that have radial distance protections for fast charging stations and for smaller companies. Nebraska, Texas, and Georgia are just some of those examples. In addition, just to say, 2027 is that snapshot in time, but that doesn't prohibit anybody from being able to start that work now to get there by 2027. And then also we still put into place a look back for the SCC in 2029 to look back and make sure that this was as effective as we thought and hope that it will be, and to ensure a competitive marketplace for those investments here in the Commonwealth. And so I hope it would be the will of the body to look favorably upon this bill.
Okay, thank you. The bill's before the committee. Got a motion and a second to report. Unless there's another motion, please open the roll.
Ayes 7, no 6, 2 abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Thank you, sir.
I
Okay,
might have another one.
you've got one other bill. I thought you were going to go away and be happy.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
You've got Senate Bill 2090,
That
House Bill 2090, rather.
That would be correct. We've got 29D before you, which is about multifamily shared solar program. And I believe that there might have been a substitute that was offered.
2090, we've got a substitute. Motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, with substitute, tell us about the bill and tell us what the substitute does that's different.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back in 2020, the General Assembly actually established the multifamily shared solar program to permit renters to benefit from solar power. However, no projects have been developed under this program due to structural issues that make financing and implementation unworkable. The program currently has a few barriers that are the major hurdles for this. So one is an on-site location requirement, which is impractical since most apartment buildings lack enough rooftop space for solar to be viable. On-site subscriber restrictions, which limit participation to only building residents, and that can sort of create instability because of high tenant turnover. And size and cost challenges, as small rooftops often have HVAC systems up there, and it reduces the usable space of the rooftop. This bill removes the on-site requirement and allows solar projects to be built on commercial rooftops nearby, as long as they are served by the same or adjacent electrical substations. This enables more renters to access solar energy while keeping projects within their communities. Mr. Chairman, this is a program that already exists, and we're just making amendments to it to make it a little bit more viable and appealing for folks to be able to opt into it.
Okay, any questions for Delegate Shin? Okay, we haven't heard this bill, so I'll take 3 minutes for people that are for the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Matt Benedetti representing Summit Ridge Energy. We're a Virginia-based developer. We want to thank the patron for bringing the bill. I think this is a very good bill, as it doesn't take up any land at all. It's all commercial rooftop for development for these multifamilies, and allows a program that's been on the books since 2020 to actually maybe have some subscribers. So we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Josephus Allman with the Southern Environmental Law Center. We actually litigated this multifamily shared solar case back in 2021, and we're really excited about it, but the strict locational requirement has hampered development in that program. We think this is a really elegant way to expand that access and make this a program that works for Virginians. We really appreciate the delegate for taking some of our amendments on this bill.
Okay. Thank you. Are there people online? Okay, 3 minutes for people that are opposed. Are the people online that are opposed? Okay, the bill's before the committee. Got a motion to report, and it's been seconded. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and
Thank
members.
you. Delegate Delaney, you're next. You've got 2258 and 1725. Is there an order that you,
We can start with 2258, Mr. Chair.
okay, 2258, please turn your attention to Delegate Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee. So House Bill 2258 deals with the concept of step therapy. Sometimes it's called fail first. This is a scenario where a doctor orders a prescription or procedure that they think is the correct thing for their patient. The insurance company denies it on the basis that they have to fail at usually what is a less expensive protocol first. Maybe several times before they will authorize the treatment that the doctor initially had ordered. Now, back in 2019, the General Assembly did take some steps to reform this issue and did put in place an opportunity for an exemption request and appeals process. However, we are still hearing from physicians and from patients saying that they are still facing these problems in the Commonwealth. So what this bill does is it simply requires a data call by the Bureau of Insurance to reach out to providers that are under their domain in the Commonwealth to collect some information about the rates at which the data around denials, acceptance, and the time frame on final decisions.
So it's essentially a Section 1 study bill.
I'm not sure if it is placed in Section 1, but it's not a study, it is a data call where we are requiring the Bureau of Insurance to make this call. They have let us know it's within their capacity, it won't be any extra cost. It's something that they are able to do within their current budget, and it is just reaching out to those that they govern to require this information to come back so that we can see if there's patterns. Are there areas in the Commonwealth where these denials are happening more than others? Are there any things that could yield some light on future steps we may need to take to identify if this is indeed a problem in the Commonwealth?
Okay, thank you, Delegate. Are there questions for Delegate Delaney? Okay, we haven't heard this bill, and so anybody, are there 3 minutes for people that are for? 3 minutes for people that are against? Is Bureau of Insurance okay with this? Is there anybody here from the Bureau of Insurance? Yes.
Yeah, I was going to try to.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Rebecca Allen for the Bureau of Insurance. We worked with the delegate to come up with the substitute that is before you. And as she mentioned, this is a data call. It is within our capacity and within our current appropriations to be able to absorb that work.
What we're talking about with the House substitute, I think, yeah, not a new substitute. Okay, the bill's before the committee. Is there a motion? Is there any opposition to the bill? I've already asked for that. Nobody came forward. So is there a motion on the bill? Okay, got a motion and a second. Unless there's another motion, please open the roll.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. So your other bill is 1725.
Yes, Mr. Chair, 1725. I do have a substitute that is a work product since this bill left the House to reach what I hope is a final compromise where we have as much peace in the valley as possible on this issue. So I do have a substitute to present, and I'll be happy to speak to that at the appropriate time.
Okay, do I have a motion on the substitute? Got a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, say aye. Okay. Any opposed? Substitutes before the committee now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
1725. Tell us what the bill does, and what's the difference in the substitute that it brought people together, you think?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what this bill does is it addresses the issues of medical debt. I think it is important that we really start to take some more steps in the Commonwealth to acknowledge that there is a difference between debt that's incurred by choices or risky behavior and debt that's incurred through illness or injury that would ultimately cause someone to fall into sometimes incredible debt through choices that had nothing to do with, nothing to do with their choices, but that were simply the circumstances before them. We hear from Virginians who, because of surgeries, because of cancer treatments, chemotherapy, medical intervention, are just strapped with crippling debt. And it wasn't because they made a bad choice. It wasn't because of their financial tendencies. It was simply because they got sick. And so what this bill does is it attempts to put the protections of those patients in place and still allow those who are owed money to collect the money that is owed to them, but to recognize that this isn't the same kind of debt that needs to be treated in the predatory fashion that other types of debt collection can implement. And so the difference between this bill and the original version prohibited a lot more extreme collection actions. We worked with the Hospital Association and several other medical providers to try to reach a consensus, recognizing that, there may be some tools that they still need in their toolbox to collect the money that is owed to them. And we wanted to try to strike a most reasonable compromise so that this bill would have a best path forward and the best opportunity to become law and protect patients better than they are currently being protected. So what this bill does is it caps interest and late fees at 3% with a 90-day grace period. It prohibits a variety of extraordinary collection actions that are pulled from IRS code. Those include causing arrest, writ of body attachment, foreclosing on real property, liens on personal property, garnishing of wages if an individual qualifies for financial assistance. It does require legally binding contract that enforces these collection actions that are prohibited if a medical debt collector sells that debt to a debt buyer with liability unless there is a previous indemnification agreement. And there are no permissible extraordinary collection actions until 120 days after the first bill. Requires a notice to be sent 30 days before taking an extraordinary collection action, and it does create an enactment date of July 1st, 2026 to make sure that everybody can get up to speed on the new procedures. It basically puts protections in place for people who are facing very dire economic situations in debt because of illness that was not a choice of their own, while still providing some balance and allowing those who are owed these funds to have means to continue to collect the debt that is owed to them.
Are there questions for Delegate Delaney? Senator Evan.
You mentioned working with other parties. Were there any people who extend debt, like the medical society or medical associations who you work with who are now supporting this?
I hope that they are here to speak in support. We worked with the medical society, we worked with the hospitals, we worked with Patient First and some of the smaller providers as well to try to get what I hope is as close to consensus as we can, recognizing that, they still need to be able to collect the debts that are owed, but we want to make sure that people don't feel that they're being treated in a predatory fashion with some of the more aggressive collection actions that many of the patient groups have brought to our attention that yielded this bill in the first place.
Okay, let's take a little bit of testimony then. 3 minutes for people that are for. Look at this.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Ben Trainham with Hancock, Daniel, and Johnson on behalf of the Medical Society of Virginia. Thank Delegate Delaney for letting us work with her and the other stakeholders to find a reasonable compromise.
Thanks. Next.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Lauren Edwards with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We are very grateful for the patrons' hard work on this bill and for the other stakeholders that have reached a compromise with us. We believe very strongly that this bill does have significant protections for patients who are trapped by medical debt and really need someone to step in on their behalf, while still allowing the entities that are owed medical bills to collect those without compromising a patient's financial stability.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Kelly Fitzgerald, representing the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, echo the sentiments of my colleagues. We think this bill strikes a very good balance by protecting patients, but also still having tools available. So we're very supportive, and also thank you so much to all the stakeholders for coming together.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Amanda Gago-Silcox with Virginia Poverty Law Center. We support the bill, and we thank the patron and all the stakeholders for working with us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Joel Andrus on behalf of Patient First, want to thank Delegate Delaney and echo the comments of my friends at the Medical Society. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bruce Cruiser with Mental Health Virginia. People with serious mental illness also tend to have more physical illnesses, and it's a compounded impact. This would really help them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Kirsten Millar from the Virginia Breast Cancer Foundation, and we strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Jared Calvi, AARP Virginia. We also support the bill and appreciate all the patrons' work on it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. One person online, okay.
Lindsay Jack, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Lindsay Jack. I'm the Managing Director of Advocacy at the ALS Association, and we strongly support this bill.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else in favor? Okay, I guess we've got people that are against. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to taking my full 3 minutes. Matt Benedetti with the Virginia Creditors Bar Association. We thank the patron for listening to our concerns, but we still have some problems with the bill. There's some of the things that are not allowed for us to do as far as garnishments goes, specifically around garnishment of personal property. If this bill were to pass, we'd have no avenue to do any kind of garnishments, and we're the third-party debt collectors. We're not the medical creditors or the medical debt buyers. For that reason, we are unfortunately opposed to the bill.
Thank you. Are there others? If there are others, come on up. Okay, are there people online? Okay, we haven't heard from the hospitals. I mean, were they part of the discussion?
Mr. Chair, with the creditors were also part of the discussions, and we did in this work take into account a lot of, we were all kind of part of the work process here. Unfortunately, I think, we have reached the work product that we have.
Where are you going, Brad?
No, feel free.
We had somebody else.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Brent Rawlings, Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association. We were opposed to the bill, and our opposition is moved with this substitute. We find these amendments favorable and acceptable. Okay. So thank you for asking.
Sometimes that's all it takes. It's just a wave.
Senator Morrison's got something he wants.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Delaney, turning your attention to line 527, garnishing the wages of any individual qualifying for financial assistance under the financial assistance policy applicable to the underlying medical debt. is that at the time, what is the timing where someone would come under this? Would they have to, when they signed at the time they
Are you
got the
phoning a
debt?
friend to answer questions?
I am phoning a friend.
Okay.
Yeah, that they acquired the debt, or could they later become eligible for financial assistance and have the garnishment removed? I mean, what is the timing on all that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll defer. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Joanna Darkus from the Virginia Poverty Law Center. I would answer Senator Marston that there are a number of different financial assistance policies that could apply to the debt depending on who holds the debt. So it could be to the creditor, the hospital they went to, or the other doctor that they saw, but there could be other financial assistance policies that are voluntarily set up by other entities for which the medical debt would qualify and for which the patient could apply or be reviewed.
So, Mr. Chairman, just follow up.
Senator Morrison.
Does that mean someone's status under that could change?
Mr. Chair, what I would say is if the person who holds the debt has a different financial assistance policy than the financial assistance policy that previously applied, then there could be another time to review them for eligibility.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there, well, we've heard from people. Is there anything you want to say to wrap it up?
Mr. Chairman, I think you've heard the testimony. I mean, we are, I think, as close as possible. We're now down to kind of a fundamental difference of how we treat patients who are experiencing debt because of medical conditions. We, I think, have retained a tremendous amount of provisions where those who are owed this money have plenty of ways that they can still collect that money. We've just put some guardrails in place to ensure that if somebody is struggling because they were sick, that there's a path forward and that they're not being treated in a predatory way.
Okay, the bill's before the committee.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to report the bill. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Ayes 13, noes 2.
That's 13 noes to the bill reports. Okay, next up is Delegate
Thank you.
Fowler. Then I've got Sickles and Lopez, and then I've got Cole and Phillips and Reed. So that's the order. Delegate Fowler, you've got 2525.
Yep, that's correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2025 reflects the recommendation of the Bureau of Insurance Work Group that has been meeting the last 2 years regarding the implementation of the electronic prior authorization for medication prescription and real-time benefits. The work group, Mr. Chairman, has included a variety of stakeholders, including the Medical Society of Virginia, the Hospital Association, and the Virginia Health Plans. Let me see, the only real substantive change in the bill is on line 96, which changes the word office visit to prescription drugs, and this is essentially a typo, which we were seeking to correct. The other portion of the bill is an enactment clause that was requested by the Hospital Association. The enactment clause seeks to continue the work group in order to monitor electronic prior authorization for medical items and services. So, as part of the work group, the Bureau of Insurance will report each November on the status of the work group efforts and recommendations as it relates to electronic prior authorization for medical items and services. And of course, the first report will be this November 1st. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm not aware of any opposition to this bill, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Delegate. Are there questions by the, are there people here to speak in favor of the bill?
There we go.
Mr. Chairman, Scott Johnson, General Counsel for the Medical Society. Your bill before you now addresses improving prior authorization for drugs. The work group is going to look at improving prior authorization for procedures. Your constituents and your doctors and your healthcare providers hate prior auth. This is a good bill. We ask you to support it.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there people online? Are there people that want to speak against this bill? Got a motion and a second to report the bill. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
Delegate.
you,
Delegate
Mr.
Sick-
Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for your
Delegate
time.
Sickles. 2738.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. 2738 is a bill to add clarity to the mental health and substance abuse sections of the code. Inconsistent medical necessity criteria across health plans hinders access to essential care. Insurers' internal plan standards often overrule evidence-based practices and clinical guidelines, leading to arbitrary denials and increased provider administrative burdens. Mr. Chairman, I've got 2 line amendments that were recommended by the American Academy of Child and Adult Psychiatry that led to the strong endorsement I have here from the American Medical Association on this bill, which I could read to you. I know you want to get through this session pretty quick, but this bill is supported by
Does staff have the amendments?
the 2
Okay.
line.
Can you move it? Move the amendments. There's a second. All in favor of adopting the amendments, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the amendments are adopted, but if you tell us what the amendments are and what they do.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Delegate Sickles. The amendments revise the definition of generally accepted standards of mental health or substance use disorder care, so that starts on line 22. The changes are line 24, after including, insert child and adolescent psychiatry, adult, so that it reads child and adolescent psychiatry, adult psychiatry, psychology, and continuing. And then on line 29, after criteria, insert service intensity assessment instruments. Thank you.
Okay, it seems like those bills just kind of clarify.
Mr. Chairman, they're both lists and things that they wanted included to be covered. That's what they are.
Okay, I think we get it. Are there questions for Delegate Sickles? Okay, 3 minutes for those people that want to speak in favor of the bill. Just because I motion this way doesn't mean you have to come up that way.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian McCann. I'm the president and CEO of the Phasen Center. We serve children and adults of all ages, all along the spectrum, and I ask that you please support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Ophelia Von Ludwig, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm here to represent the Virginia Society for Clinical Social Work and the Greater Washington Society for Clinical Social Work, and we are in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Rebecca Catterley. I'm here on behalf of the Behavioral Health Providers Coalition. We have a coalition of 7 groups of behavioral health providers across the Commonwealth. We support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bruce Cruiser with Mental Health Virginia. It increases access to care. It's very important for those with serious mental illness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clark Barron with Medical Society Virginia. We support the bill.
Thank you. Are there people online? Are there people that are opposed to the bill? Are there people online that are opposed to the bill? The bill's before the committee. Moved to report. It's been seconded. Unless there are other motions, open the roll. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
I think that was all you had.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that there were a lot of people that worked on this, so I want to thank them all. It's been an unbelievable process that just started when this session started, so it's been good.
It's a good bill.
Thanks.
Okay, Delegate Lopez, you're next, 2561.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Okay.
Thank you. So this bill standardizes and updates provisions of our worker protection statutes. Basically, it simplifies compliance and provides clarity to businesses. It harmonizes key provisions and statute of limitations in each of our wage payment, minimum wage, and overtime laws to provide basic consistency. The goal is to make these laws work for our workers who need to use them and ensure businesses can have predictable processes to follow. Basically, the bill does 3 things. It makes it so that all 3 wage theft statutes follow the penalty of the current wage payment statute, treble damages along with reasonable attorney's fees. And also with our
our wage payment law provides that cases can be brought as collective actions consistent with the collective action procedures of the FLSA, but our minimum wage and overtime laws don't. So our bill would change that and ensure that all wage theft victims have the same recourse regardless of how their wages are stolen. And then finally, employees are often subject to wage theft for years without realizing their legal rights to the stolen wages. These employees need the ability to recoup those lost wages. And the statute of limitations is 3 years under our wage payment law, 2 years in certain cases, and 3 years in other cases under our overtime law, and non-existent in our minimum wage law. This bill basically provides clarity by making it 3 years across the board. In addition, we address some of the statute of limitations for misclassification and Human Rights Act violations, respectively. And so, Mr. Chairman, I hope it's the will of the committee to pass the bill.
Are there questions for Delegate Lopez? Okay, this is not a bill we've heard, so 3 minutes for people that are for the bill.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Doris Krause Mays with the Virginia AFL-CIO, and we really want to thank the delegate for bringing this bill forward. This is something that we really, really need to get consistency with, so I would ask that you please pass the bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there others? Is there anybody online that wants, okay, 3 minutes for people that are opposed.
Mr. Chairman, Kyle Shreve on behalf of the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation, we do respectfully oppose the bill. Specifically, it does pull in language that was included in Senate Bill 967 from Senator Carol Foy, and that links the Virginia Minimum Wage Act into the employer penalties, and also at on lines 183, 184, as well as 190 and 191. Our opposition stems from a few years ago. We married the overtime protections up to the Fair Labor Standards Act. There was a mistake made. The General Assembly had to come back and pass another bill. There are outstanding lawsuits against farmers in the Commonwealth, and we oppose changing these definitions and monkeying with that code section while those lawsuits continue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Emily Webb, representing the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. I would like to thank the patron for meeting with us on several occasions to discuss our concerns and consider potential amendments, but as currently drafted, we do oppose the bill. It introduces several provisions that would significantly increase liability for employers and create new compliance challenges, particularly for businesses that operate in multiple jurisdictions. Related to the extension on the statute of limitations on overtime claim, the bill does not distinguish between employers who make good faith efforts to comply with the law and those who act recklessly or intentionally. This means even inadvertent payroll errors could result in triple damages. Allowing minimum wage violations to be pursued as collective action with a 3-year look-back period and mandatory triple damages would drastically increase legal exposure for businesses, even for unintentional mistakes leading to costly litigation. The expansion of the timeline for filing discrimination claims further prolongs the risk of legal disputes, making it more difficult for employers to resolve workplace issues efficiently. And finally, this bill diverges from federal labor standards, creating inconsistencies for the Fair Labor Standards Act. This misalignment complicates compliance, particularly for businesses that operate in multiple states. We understand the need to protect workers and support fair and clear labor standards. However, as written, this would create unintended risk and administrative burden on employers.
Okay, about 40 seconds left for the rest.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Tommy Herbert, Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. We associate ourselves with the comments from the Virginia Chamber and ask you to oppose the bill.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Travis Smiley, Virginia Food Industry Association, would also like to echo the Chamber's comments in opposition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Are there people online that want to speak against the bill? Okay, you want to wrap it up real quick?
Yeah, that was all fascinating. This was done with a considerable number of labor law lawyers and labor folks to address some real disparities and discrepancies in the Virginia Code that have been in existence for decades. The lawsuits will never end, as you know. It's going to continue, so that argument is sort of not really a very strong one in my opinion. The compliance challenges are not that hard because multi-state businesses have to comply with different state rules all the time. Legal exposure is the intention. Right now, you have workers who actually are getting hurt because there's different standards in our codes for the same, the same area of law. And we're just trying to make everything very normal, straight across the board. And of course, businesses have to deal with multiple state laws on a regular basis. So the arguments, all we're asking is fairly straightforward. This is narrowly tailored from what we had last year. There you go.
Got a motion of report and a second. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll. What time's that game?
Ayes 9, no 6.
There we go.
Okay, Delegate Cole. Delegate Cole, there you are. 1942.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Before you is HB 1942. This bill seeks to modernize Virginia's money transmission regulation, and this bill follows a year-long collaboration between industry stakeholders and the SCC.
Well, my notes say they're going to be
There
changes.
is, I'm sorry, a substitute. Yes, sir.
There's a substitute, okay. A motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, say aye. It's a big substitute. Any opposed? Okay, it's a pretty thick substitute. You're going to have to.
It is,
Here on
yes,
the last
sir.
day.
Yeah, and just so you all understand, the substitute follows the framework of the original bill, but it incorporates SCC edits to fit Virginia's needs. Basically, it updates definitions, licensing, auditing, reporting, and enforcement rules. And also at the SCC's request, the bill takes effect, a delayed enactment on July 1st of 2026, allowing time for implementation and adjustments.
Money transmitter, is that defined in the bill?
Yes, sir. I'm looking for the line number, but
Money transmission is over on line 143, page 6. Money transmission means selling or issuing payment instruments to a person located in the Commonwealth, selling or issuing stored value to a person located in the Commonwealth, or receiving money for transmission from a person in the Commonwealth. Includes payroll processing services and does not include the provision solely of online or telecommunications services or network access. On the last day, tell me what this bill's all about.
And so just so you all aware, if you want to know what money transmitters are, it can be like Western Union, PayPal, Cash App. These are companies who send and hold or transfer money for customers. Initially, once limited to money orders and cross-border transfers, the industry has expanded with fintech and global payments. And so we're just seeking to regulate money transmitters in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This has already been being done in about, I believe, 27 states, if I'm not mistaken. And so we're bringing this in alignment. And Mr. Chair, I do know, since the committee has a question answering spirit tonight, I do have some experts who can answer your questions if you do.
Senator Reeves has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate, I'm looking on page 31 of the substitute. So is payroll processing services included now, or are they still excluded?
So I'll yield.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Chris White with the Vector Corporation here on behalf of Intuit. We support the bill. Senator Reeves, to answer your question, in the substitute that's before you, payroll processors are exempt. And that was something that the industry came and asked the patron of early on. It's my understanding that since the exemption was put in the bill, there is a segment of the payroll processing industry that would like to change that. I think the issue is if the enactment clause makes the bill effective July 1, 2026, that's an issue that probably can be discussed during the interim. I'd also say currently right now, my understanding is that the State Corporation Commission does not regulate payroll processors, so the substitute that's before you would be consistent with what we have now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We haven't heard this bill, and I want to hear, Senator Evans got questions.
Just wanted to clarify, this has nothing to do with credit. It's just modernizing our transmitting, like what used to be Western Union and now is done over the internet?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, we haven't heard this bill before, so 3 minutes for people that are for. Senator Peake's got about to throw a fit down here. It's got questions.
We're talking down here like we like to do. Under the definition on page 6, it lists payroll. So where are they exempted? Money transmissions, line 146 says includes payroll processing services under money transmission. Are they exempted in here?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Senator Peake, the answer is yes. Do you remember where it is? It's number 15 on page 10. Page 10, number 15.
Thank you.
Okay, are there additional questions? I'll take 3 minutes for people that are for, and then we'll go to people that are against. 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kathy Bircher with Advantage Strategies on behalf of the Independent Payroll Providers Association, and certainly appreciate the questions about the exemptions for the small payroll processors that are not money transmitters. The membership of the Independent Payroll Processors Association consists of small to mid-sized payroll companies. We act as agents of the employers and must register that way with the IRS. We are not money transmitters. This legislation, when we've seen it come up in other states across the country, has not always included language to exempt the strict payroll providers. So we're really grateful to have worked with the delegate to ensure that our members are protected and the regulatory process that exists here in Virginia would be continued for them. And again, our members register with the IRS and serve a really important purpose for Virginia's small businesses. So we're very supportive of the legislation and certainly appreciate the questions from members who are concerned about our independent small payroll providers. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Chris White, Vector Corporation, here on behalf of Intuit. The only thing I would like to add is that what you have before you is a product of a year-long process, and I'd just like to publicly thank Commissioner Face, his team at the SCC. They've been excellent to work with, getting us to where we are now. Thank you.
Okay. I remember now. Commissioner Face, are you around? Commissioner Face, tell us what this bill does.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe Face, Commissioner of Financial Institutions. What this bill is, it's a model act that other states in the country have already passed. We state regulators believe that all regulation is local. There's been an effort by the federal government to try to encroach on our regulatory apparatus of non-depository institutions. We've worked very closely with the patron. We've offered a number of amendments. The substitute incorporates those amendments. We think the bill is enforceable as is, but we do have that extra time with the enactment clause in case we need to come back next session.
Okay, but you're satisfied with where the bill is now? It gives you a place to work from?
I'm satisfied where the bill is now.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are there people that want to speak against the bill? Okay, the bill's before the committee. Now you can, we have one person online. We got a motion and a second to report the bill.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee. Thank you for offering me an opportunity to share ADP's opposition of HB 1942 in its current form. ADP is the nation's largest payroll service provider, and we are uniquely positioned to understand the importance of the regulation of money transmitters. We are very concerned that HB 1942, in its amended version of the Uniform Money Transmission Modernization Act, issued by Conference of the State Bank Supervisors, includes an exemption for payroll processing services, with the result that payroll processing services operating in Virginia would not be regulated as money transmitters. In response to what was previously mentioned from the lady at IMPA, while reporting agents are authorized by the IRS via IRS Form 8655, reporting agent authorization form, they are not regulated, supervised, or enforced by the IRS. This change to exempt payroll processing services from coverage under Virginia's money transmitter laws would prevent the state from being able to regulate payroll processors who provide money transmission services. Such exclusion is unnecessary and ill-advised. Money transmitters are companies that receive, hold, and resend money for customers. Payroll firms that handle client funds clearly fall within this definition. In recent years, there have been several cases, including in Virginia, in which payroll providers have misappropriated funds that their employer clients have entrusted to them to process payroll and tax withholdings. Active oversight of the industry may prevent this type of
Thank you. Are you opposed to the bill then?
Opposed to the bill.
You're opposed to the bill. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we've had a motion to report. Unless there's a second, unless there's another motion, please open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Okay, Delegate Phillips has
Thank you,
one
Mr.
bill,
Chair,
and then
members of the
Delegate
committee.
Reed has two bills, and then we're done. Delegate Phillips has 2671.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. HB 2671 adds a definition of inspection for the purposes of a septic system inspection in connection with a real estate transaction. And it also adds minimum requirements for who can inspect or septic system inspectors in conducting such inspections. It'll limit who can do it to individuals who hold a Virginia DPOR license in a specific septic-related field.
Okay, the question I had, this undoes something we did about maybe 10 years ago, is that right?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'll also tell you, currently in the language, you can only do an inspection if you're accredited by the National Sanitation Foundation.
Right.
They no longer exist. So unless we change the law, no one can become accredited because that's an institution that no longer, they're defunct.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would, if I could question the patron. A lot of what we're seeing in our region, if I understand correctly, Delegate Phillips, is that there are people that are not certified home inspectors, these kind of things, inspecting these septic systems, which we have, and including but not limited to at Smith Mountain Lake, which usually are going down a hill towards the 802.5 contour. And this would require a better inspection that's not only more reliable, it's safe, it's good for the environment, and it's great for the homeowner. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so currently, who usually does it, frankly, are people who do pest control, who have no relation to.
Pest control.
That's correct.
Okay, are there other questions for Delegate?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Phillips. Okay, we haven't seen this bill before. Are there people that are for this bill that need to be heard? Are there people that are against this bill that need to be heard? If the bill is before the committee, are there people online that care about the bill? There are not. Nobody cares. So, I don't know if there's a motion or not.
Move to report.
Got a motion and a second to report the bill. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
It's a movement.
It's movement.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you,
Mr.
15, no
Members of the
0.
committee. Appreciate it.
Okay, Delegate Reed, you've got the last two bills. 1821 and 1822.
Oh, is he playing? Okay. He's playing the basketball game, having voted on the prevailing.
1821 and 1822.
Yes, let's just do them in numerical order, Mr. Chair. And I know that there is a line amendment for 1821, and so I'll leave it to Sarah to report the line amendment first.
Sarah, do you have a line amendment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and Delegate Reed. On line 366, after pursuant to this subsection, insert, provided that the costs of such resources are not recovered from any of the utilities customers who have not voluntarily agreed to pay for such costs. And then the second change is on line 387, after buyers, strike the remainder of the new language through line 392. Thank you.
Got a motion and a second on those amendments. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, so basically, you've taken out the new language at the end of the paragraph, and you've just modified the language, the new language at the top of the page.
Yes, Mr.
So
Chair, that is correct.
Tell us what Tell us about the bill.
Okay, so a year ago, of course, we had a lot of bills that were introduced related to data centers and how we were going to address generation, transmission, and distribution of power. And then we had a JLARC study. This is effectively addressing what was included in the JLARC report for recommendation number 3. What this does is this adds to the Accelerated Renewable Energy Buyer Program the ability for customers to be able to add in energy battery storage, along with currently what is included is both solar and wind power. So that's the gist of the legislation. I believe that if I can continue with the good feelings that Delegate Delaney left you, I believe that we have peace in the valley on this, and we have worked to be able to get to this point with all of the stakeholders, and I will...
But where this started out was a recommendation 3 from the JLARC report.
Recommendation number, yes, Mr. Chair. It started out as recommendation number 3 from the JLARC
Okay,
report.
are there questions for the delegate? Are there, Senator Evans got questions.
For staff, the amendment we adopted on line 387 says an accelerated renewable energy buyer, and then what does it conclude with? Or was that
Mr.
strict?
Chair, Senator Eben, the amendment was on line 366. Near the end of the line after subsection, it's comma, provided that the costs of such resources are not recovered from any of the utilities customers who have not voluntarily agreed to pay for such costs.
And then we struck all the new language at the end of that paragraph.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Okay, we've not heard this bill. 3 minutes from people that like the bill. And the longer you talk, the more likely it is we get bad votes.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Josephus Allman with the Southern Environmental Law Center. We think this is a good way to get private capital into storage and to also make sure transmission and distribution costs are fairly allocated. We support.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Chair, my name is Winter Ford. I also go by the Secret Weapon, and the Virginia League of Conservation Voters supports this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Why can't everybody be like that?
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, Chrissy Noonan on behalf of Dominion Energy. Tough act to follow. Appreciate the patron working with us on the bill. With the substitute, the bill is now a pure pull down of the JLARC recommendation, and as such, we support it.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there others? Are there people that are against the bill? Are there people online? Okay, do we have a motion? We have a motion to report and a second. Unless there are other motions, please open the roll.
Excuse me.
Mr. Chair, I can't
Ayes
believe
9, no 6.
they're voting against the 11-year-old.
You ought to see what else they voted against. Okay, you've got another bill, 1822.
Yes, Mr. Chair, 1822. Again, continuing in the vein of being able to discuss what we can do to better improve things related to data centers. What this does is this provides that the State Corporation Commission, when making determinations regarding the need for quarter, route, or method of installation of new transmission lines or reconductoring, that they consider the prudency of using advanced conductor materials, and that is defined in the earlier part of this bill up in lines 12 through 16. And the intent behind this is that we want to be able to give them the authority and encourage them to use this when it's a prudent approach, because if we're installing a 500 kilovolt line, if they choose to and they can find that it makes the right financial sense, then you can actually run, say, 750 kilovolts down the same line using the same right-of-way.
This bill had no negative votes in the House.
That's correct, sir.
It had no negative votes in the House committee.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, are there people that are against the bill that want to speak? Okay, is that second?
Sorry, Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
McPike has questions.
Yeah, I do. The definition, the question is no harm to the bill, but the advanced conductors, is there anybody from SCC that can help? Is it limiting technology? There's emerging technology from many different aspects. Is this definition wide enough, or is it narrowing down the possibilities of other technologies by including this definition in this code section?
Mr. Chair, if I may, to Senator McPike, you see that in here that there are some specific items, but the piece of legislation that came over to you actually includes a comma at the end that says in any similar technology. So therefore, the idea was It's these types of technologies, and then it opens up the aperture so that it's like if there's any similar technology. And most of these technologies have been used for decades in Europe and in the United States and in Asia.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think Delegate or Senator McPike wanted somebody from the State Corporation Commission to address the definition. And
Mr. Chair, Senator McPike, Mike Szynski with the State Corporation Commission. Could you ask the question again, just to make sure I understood it?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my question is the definitions on lines 12 through, 13, 14, 15, in terms of advanced conductors, is it limiting in terms of newer technology? I mean, there's
Is
coal
that
technology,
definition
there's many
accurate,
other
or is-
applications that may not fit, and so that's my question. If we're putting in this code, are we limiting other advancements in conductor technology by how we've narrowed this?
Mr. Chair, Senator McPike, I would say that it is limiting it just by the definitions that it uses. However, those definitions do have a wide array of different conductors, like the ACCC conductors. There's a lot of new ACCC conductors that are coming out. I guess to the extent that they may come out with a different name, perhaps that could cause a conflict, but I think as staff would review advanced conductors, we might still have some latitude to consider those, even if they weren't listed.
Mr.
here.
Chairman,
Senator McPike's got another question.
follow up, and no, not meaning to slow down the train, but there's also like supercooled conductors that are advancing out of Boston right now. How would that be incorporated into this definition, or is it plausible? Again, no harm to the patron's bill. I just want to make sure as we're defining something, we're allowing for advancement in technologies.
Well, the definition, if I understand right, it does say any similar technologies. Now, what you're listing may be some wildly different technology. I don't know how that would apply. I don't know what technologies might be coming down in the future. But I do believe that gives us some latitude to consider other technologies that might have higher capacities allowed or higher tensile strength.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. That's the answer. I just want to confirm with the SEC that they're interpreting it with a much wider lens, just in case that question comes up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. We've got people speaking against the bill. We need to hear from people that are for the bill. Are there people that are, okay, the 11-year-old, the secret weapon is here. Okay. The Southern Environmental Law Center is for it.
I don't think anybody's against it.
Okay, so Dominion is for it, okay? So the bill's before the committee. Okay, a motion and a second. Unless there's another motion, please open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes no, so the committee will rise. Thank you
Mr.
very
Chairman,
much.
can members, thank you.
This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Committee Room, A305.
Did you know that you can watch the Senate live on YouTube? Visit the channel by browsing to youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. That's youtube.com/@Senate of Virginia. Senate Committee Room, A305. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. This is the Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.